California and New York, they're all going to be watching to see how this plays out. My question is, will tax hikes solve Illinois' problem? Let us bring in our guests. Here now is former Illinois Governor Rod Blagojevich and Art Laffer of Laffer Associates, former Reagan economic advisor. Governor Blagojevich, I do not see, you got to help me, yes, I'm not an expert on Illinois, I do not see how jacking up the tax rates in Illinois is going to make it any better, but I can imagine why it could be worse.
Well, first of all, it's a rotten thing to do to the people that my fellow Democrats in Illinois want to do, who just elected them to office, and that is a 75% income tax increase on them. These are hard times for people. This is just going to put more hardship on families. It's going to make the economy worse, not better, because it's going to take money away from the economy. It'll retard the economic recovery, which will help state budgets. Third, it doesn't work. California did it. Arnold Schwarzenegger raised the income tax when he had a $26.3 billion deficit, and then after he did that, he left a $26 billion deficit to his successor in California. And fourth, it's not necessary. There are ways to balance the budget in Illinois without raising taxes on people. I did it for 6 years when I was governor, and one way is you take an asset like the lottery and you lease that lottery like they do in England. That'll generate $10 to $12 to $15 billion. You don't have to raise taxes.
Right,
There's $3 billion.
Hang on.
Okay, go ahead. Sorry.
No, I appreciate your thoughts. I want to bring in my pal Art Laffer. Art, Happy New Year.
Happy New Year, Larry.
You know, everything I read, Art, first of all, the latest census, Illinois lost a congressional seat, and states that lost population in the last 10 years and subsequently are losing congressional seats, they're the high-tax states.
They sure are.
Now, surely Governor Quinn and the Democratic legislature knows this. Why are they forging ahead with this, in your judgment? What's the outcome going to be?
I have no idea, Larry, why they're going ahead. I think Rod is perfectly correct. It's a rotten thing to do to the people of Illinois. They're trying to balance the state's budget by unbalancing the budgets of the citizens of Illinois. And I thought it was a mistake when Richard Ogilvie put in the income tax in Illinois, and I think it's a real mistake to raise it there. They're in dire straits. You can't tax a state into prosperity, and it makes no sense.
So, Governor, back to you on this. You have models here, like Chris Christie will not raise taxes in New Jersey. Democrat Andrew Cuomo has said, so far he's been very strong on this, that he will not raise taxes in New York State, even though New York State has a gigantic budget gap. In fact, Cuomo is going to let the so-called millionaires tax run off. Governor O'Malley in Maryland is going to let the millionaires tax run off. Why are your fellow Democrats in Illinois sticking with this loser clunker of an approach?
Well, you know, I was the first Democratic governor in Illinois elected after 26 years of Republicans. I refused to raise the income tax on people. I kept the promise that I made, in spite of the Democratic constituency groups, the special interests, the big labor unions, as well as some of the big business interests, because they don't pay taxes in Illinois. The reality is that of the Fortune 100 companies that do business in Illinois, they pay on average $151 in corporate taxes because they're incorporated in other places. The average working guy in my state pays $1,500 a year in taxes. Quinn and the Democrats here in my state want to double that tax burden on working people. It will hurt the economy and retard the budget in the long run. The fact is, when I was governor, there were tough years. You had to cut things. You had to set priorities and readjust where the spending went. Years when the economy was good, the money kept rolling in. The way Illinois and every other state will get out of their budget problems will be when the economy recovers and grows by raising taxes on people. You're going to retard that growth.
Arthur, look, he's
wonderful, by the way.
You know, this is very
Illinois would be so much better with Blagojevich back. It would be
Governor,
amazing.
Where are you when we need you? That's the only thing I'll say.
But what he's saying, Larry, is that taxes redistribute. They don't redistribute income. They redistribute people. And he's completely correct. They redistribute profits to other states.
Yes, but Arthur, you're going to have some very tough spending cuts.
Of course.
Medicare, other transfer payments, pensions, benefits, all that's got to be slashed. But Art, what would you say to Quinn of Illinois? Wouldn't he be better off lowering tax rates instead of raising them? Now, this is really horrible supply-side theory, but I think some of these governors are figuring out that supply-side theory works. Andrew Cuomo wants to be a supply-sider. Governor O'Malley of Maryland wants to be a supply-sider.
Let me put it this way.
Wants to be a supply-sider. Why are these Illinois Democrats about to make a gigantic mistake and wreck the state's economy for 10 years?
Because they don't understand the short-run problem, Larry, with the long-run solution. If Ogilvy had never put the income tax into Illinois, and if Illinois had grown at the average rate of the zero tax states, they would be prospering like mad. Illinois has way underperformed the nation and way, way, way underperformed the states that have no income tax. It's shocking. They would have had more revenues than they could have imagined. But they've got to go for this short-term solution for 1 or 2 years and then let the whole state go to hell in a handbasket. And it's tragic, this short-term thinking. It's just tragic.
All right, so, Mr. Blagojevich, you know there's a game here with the municipal bond rating agencies like Moody's and S&P. They are going to say that higher tax rates are supposedly going to deliver revenues and help the state's credit rating. And the state's tax-exempt bonds have done very badly. The interest rate spreads against other high-quality bonds have been slaughtered. Ron, what do you do about that? You've got these goofy rating agencies actually encouraging the state of Illinois to jack up tax rates.
Well, you know, the governor and elected representatives are supposed to represent the people, not these rating agencies. I used to hear that all the time when I was the governor. I mean, don't burden the people with more taxes just to please these people in Wall Street. The reality is, and here's the sad reality in Illinois, Pat Quinn, the Democratic governor, the Democratic leadership in the House and in the Senate are paying back the interest groups that funded their campaigns. The big labor unions want more of the people's money so they can have more membership and more benefits to their members. The education community understandably wants more money, but then they're not prepared to make the difficult choices so that more of that money goes into the classroom. The reality is this is just a sellout of the people to the special interests that do business in Springfield. And here's another cynical thing. The Republicans in my state who will oppose this, deep down would like to oppose it and see it happen because they see the political train wreck that that's going to happen to the Democrats in the next election.
Well, why don't they slam spending? Rob, why don't they slam spending? And I'm talking pensions for the unions, benefits for the unions. But all right, so let me flip it over to you, Art. There's a cajillion, cajillion ways to cut spending. They can cut Medicaid spending. They could revolt against more Medicaid burdens coming down from Obamacare. In other words, why reach for the tax hike trigger first? That should be last, and last. They haven't even talked about spending reduction.
What they really need is the balanced budget amendment here, where they have to balance the budget without raising taxes, and they can do this. That's what these guys are elected to do, is make the tough choices of how to allocate the money in the proper way. If you look at the teachers union there in Illinois, you know they're way overspending. You know that the pensions are way underfunded. All of those things have to be corrected, and there are lots of other things. I just named those because everyone else talks about them, but there are lots of other ways of bringing spending under control in Illinois if the guys would do their jobs. And I think Rod Blagojevich tonight is just exactly 100% on the mark.
All right,
and I couldn't be more pleased with his comments.
I'll give you the last word. Do you think that, in fact, the Democrats running Illinois will make this major tax hike mistake? And, in fact, will that send a totally wrong message, let's say, to Jerry Brown in California and other Democratic governors around the country?
Are you asking me that, Larry?
Yes, sir.
Yes. It's possible. Let me tell you what's really sickening. These lawmakers who are going to raise taxes on people, they're getting paid more than $80,000 a year, and they're part-time employees working maybe 4 or 5 months out of the year. There are 13 lawmakers in Illinois who are double dippers. They're on 2 or 3 other public payrolls. They want now to raise taxes on people, but they're not willing to cut their pay by 75%, even though they want a 75% income tax increase. It's the phony baloney politics you hear all the time. They've got to make the hard decisions. This governor is selling out the people for the special interests in Springfield, and the answer to your question is, if they do it, it'll be a message to the other governors that it's a big disaster and don't do it. And all I can tell you again is, in California, they did it. Governor Schwarzenegger raised taxes as he was leaving office.
That's why I left California.
$26 billion deficit. Well, the deficit he left to his successor is $26 billion.
I got the message. Rod Blagojevich, thank you very much. We appreciate it. And Arthur Laffer, great to see you.
Good to see you, Larry.
Another record high for Apple.